going to give some tips on how to approach the philosophy of teaching assignment. Remember, this is 50 points, and the reason why we do this assignment is because we've always had a philosophy of teaching assignment at the end of block 1. You'll have another one at the end of block 2 and another one at the end of block 3. We want to see where you are at the present time. Your philosophy will change as you go from one block to the other block. 50 points. Points will be deducted for incorrect file name and subject line. That's -5. Should be last name, first name, philosophy for both the subject line and the file name. Late submission, less than the required length, -20. Not submitting the assignment to both the Dropbox and Turnitin, -5, because I'll have to submit those for you in that case. Using APA format, write your 5 to 6 page philosophy of teaching. I expect a title page, APA format style, and we'll go into that a little bit later, and I'll show you how to get to the website that gives you that information if you don't have the manual. 3 to 4 page philosophy statements subdivided into sections for philosophical foundations, how students learn, and how teachers should teach. I'll go into those more in a minute. Reference page with at least 3 references. At least one must be from an academic journal or book, not the textbook. And all internet sites must be .org with no Wikipedia, so you can have a .org reference. All references must have citations in the text. So if it's in the reference list, I expect a citation in the text somewhere. And if there's a reference in the text, I expect something in the reference list. Tips. Your philosophical foundations section should talk about topics from the course like Vygotsky, Piaget, Bloom's taxonomy, constructivism, inquiry learning, and discovery learning. There is no need to talk about all of them. Maybe 1 or 2 of these are important. What drives you to teach the way you do? Are you more of a Vygotsky kind of person who is more of a social constructivist, or more like Piaget with the focus on the different stages of development? You can be a combination of Vygotsky and Piaget and take some information from the things that you research and things from the course. Bloom's taxonomy. What is your feeling about Bloom's taxonomy and how you should be teaching in relationship to what your insights about Bloom's taxonomy? Doesn't have to be mentioned, but if you do, that's okay. Constructivism. I expect some sort of constructivism in there. You have Vygotsky's social constructivism, you have Piaget's cognitive constructivism, or similar to Piaget, and there are others who have written about constructivism as well, like Bruner and others. Then there's inquiry learning and discovery learning. Where are those in your teaching philosophy? Are you more of an inquiry person, discovery person, or maybe neither of these? So you're going to write about your philosophical foundations for the reason why you're going to teach the way you teach. Remember, you don't have to talk about all of them, but a couple of them interweaved in there would be nice. You can find other sources as well. Be a little easy on the quotations, because I expect correct quotation citation format from APA if you have quotes, but don't overdo the quotes. Your How Students Learn section should focus on learning with little mention of the teacher. Maybe if you're writing like a page or half a page on how students learn, maybe 3/4 of a page, make sure that the word students and learn occur much more often than the word teacher or teach. Then you're going to have How Teachers Should Teach section. Now this focuses on things related to the school. By the school, I mean it can be the feedback, it can be your assessment methods, it can be the way you present information, the kinds of assignments you give. There are a lot of things that are in the How Teachers Should Teach. When I say things related to the school, many things related to the school. I'm talking about all those kind of things that teachers will do in the classroom. Now, students learn in specific ways, and maybe you're going to use that as your starting point, and then talk about how you would teach in order to get students to learn the way they would learn. For instance, if you do a lot of hands-on, if you think students learn through doing and through hands-on, then you're going to talk a lot about hands-on learning and engaging with students, conversing with students perhaps, formative assessment with students, maybe in your How Teachers Should Teach section. Here's an important tip. Avoid mention of your biography or autobiography, except maybe in the first couple of sentences or the last couple of sentences. I'll talk more about that a little bit later. I don't want you to talk about your field experience. If you do, just a couple of words. I don't want half a page on your field experience. I don't want examples or support for what you're writing from your field experiences. You can find support in your own experience without referring to that. Avoid being negative and talking about things you do not like. I'd rather know what you will do and not what you won't do. Have more of a positive tone and don't talk about the things you've seen other places. That gets too much into biography. You're on your own for this assignment. I will not look at drafts of the assignment, but I will clarify the instructions if needed. Feel free to give me a call. If you text me, I'll probably tell you to give me a call. Now let's look at the rubric. The rubric's very important, and my expectation is that most of you will do average. Now this is a 50-point assignment, so 20%, which is the focus, that would be 10 points. My guess is that average would be 7 or 8 points if you have average for focus. And by focus, I'm talking about when it talks about the section on your philosophical foundations, that you are focused in on philosophical foundations. You're not talking about other things. If it's a section on how students learn, it's all about students learn, and you don't have a lot of how teachers should teach in that section. And when it talks about how teachers should teach, I want to make sure it's about that. And so most of you will be average on this. The central idea may not be immediately clear, but it is evident by the end of the piece. Writing demonstrates occasional awareness of audience, situation, and occasion. That would be average. And you can read there to see what is higher than average, where better than average, you would probably lose 1 or 2 points, and exceptional would be getting the full 10 points. Organization and development. This has a lot to do with paragraphing. Logical paragraphing with average would be, this is losing 2 or 3 points. Logical paragraphing with transitions between and within paragraphs. Organizations is sometimes unclear or illogical. Body paragraphs contain adequate, though sometimes inconsistent levels of evidence and examples, general occasionally convincing discussion of topic. Final paragraph offers sufficient closure. Compare that to the one that loses no points. Consistently logical and effective paragraphing with smooth transitions between and within paragraph, consistently clear and logical structure. Body paragraphs provide substantial detailed evidence and thorough discussion and explanation. Effective, convincing discussion of topic, interesting, effective, insightful ending. Your ending will probably be, it can be somewhat biographical or autobiographical, your last sentence or two on how teachers should teach. You can come up with something pretty much summing up your paper in that ending. So, and then the beginning, again, you might start out with a little bit about something about yourself or your experience, maybe the first sentence or two when you talk about your philosophical foundations. Also make sure that in the organization and development that you have your section headings. Remember, there are 3 sections, so there should be 3 section headings, and you will look at the APA format to see how the section heading should be formatted as far as centering, font, capitalization, and so forth. Organization development were 10 points also. Style and sentence structure, 20%. The average, which would be -2 or 3 points. Unsophisticated but generally accurate diction. Some variety in sentence length and structure, occasionally inconsistent tone, occasional lapses in task-appropriate voice, clear, relatively free of unidiomatic syntax, and expressions, occasional errors in sentence structure, for example, fragments, run-ons, and comma splices, some wordiness. If you have those characteristics, or some of those characteristics, if these dominate, then you're going to lose 2 or 3 points in this section. Look at the other one, the one where you lose no points. Sophisticated, effective, appropriate diction, and consistently varied, sophisticated sentence length and structure, consistent tone, consistent, maintains task-appropriate voice, consistently smooth, clear, readable syntax, free of errors and sentence structure, that is, fragments, run-ons, comma splices, no wordiness. It's effective, it's efficient as you write your philosophy. Grammar and mechanics, again, I will not take off a huge number of points. If it's excessive, I'll take off 10. If it's average, in the average section, again, I'll take off 2 or 3 points. And you can read this as far as the grammar errors go, but you can lose up to 10 points on the grammar for this assignment. Research. This is all about the APA. Okay, so on average, you'll use sources, most of which are reliable and relevant. And in fact, I'll be judging the sources that you use for your paper. There will be occasional errors citing sources in text or parenthetically, occasional lapses in the use of appropriate documentation style, rare minor unintentional plagiarism. I'll be looking at the Turnitin to see if everything is cited that is highlighted, or the references, of course, will probably be used from someone else, so those will show up in Turnitin. But within the text, I'm expecting to see very little in the text that would be copied from somewhere else. Some effective synthesis of writers' ideas with information from sources. So I'll read there. As far as the research goes, I'm expecting a good title page, good headings, appropriate style when you do your reference list, and the citations according to APA. If you have trouble with that, go to the Writing Center to have them take a look at your paper. And then discipline-specific writing. In this one, that is worth about 3 points. The research part is worth like about 7 points, and discipline-specific writing is worth about 3 points. And so in this one, basically, when you talk about constructivism, you really are talking about constructivism. If you talk about Piaget, you really are expressing the views of Piaget. If you talk about Piaget, Vygotsky, it really is Vygotsky you're talking about. That's what I mean by discipline-specific writing. So become familiar with the rubric, the expectations. Go to the Writing Center, get help, read over your paper, make sure that it's conforming to the rules of grammar, APA style, and that you are on topic and that you're focused, and that just put a good paper together for your final grade for the course. I look forward to seeing what you guys write. If you have any questions as far as to the instructions, I'll be happy to give you some advice.